Congressman Seth Moulton, who is a member of the House Armed Services Committee. He joins me now from Washington. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. I believe we have the congressman, do we?
Yes.
Okay, hi. We can't see you, so I can hear you. Apologies. Melanie sort of threw us off. There you are. Thank you so much for joining us. So as I had asked Melanie, there had been at least a couple of Republican senators yesterday who were suggesting that they weren't willing or really desiring to meet with and hear from President Zelensky today. Yet we hear now from North Carolina Republican Senator Tom Tillis, who said that he thinks Zelensky successfully disabused senators of concerns over corruption. I thought the issue was the southern border. What do you make of all of this and the likelihood that any aid package can be agreed upon this week?
Well, the reality for months in Congress has been that Republicans are supportive of Ukraine behind closed doors because they know how important it is, not just for the Ukrainian people who are literally fighting for their lives, fighting for freedom and democracy every single day, but also critical for our national security, because we all know that if Putin is able to continue his march that he started in Georgia, then he went to Crimea, then he went to the Donbass, his next stop after Ukraine, after Kyiv, will be a NATO country, and that means our Western allies and our American troops are in the fight. For all those reasons, Republicans have always been supportive of Ukraine funding behind closed doors. But as they get political pressure from their base, from the far right of their party, the isolationist wing of the Republican Party, they've been much less willing to support Zelensky in public, and that's why they're trying to avoid his meetings.
It hasn't helped that the war this year and Ukraine's counteroffensive hasn't gone according to plan, at least how they had touted it in the initial months. Obviously, we saw some surprising developments last year and real effort being made for Ukrainians. Things look a bit different now, concerns about a possible stalemate. What did you hear and what do you need to hear more from the Ukrainian president about maybe a shift in planning on their part in terms of convincing more of your fellow lawmakers there that more aid is warranted and it will be effective?
No, it's a great question because we are definitely in a stalemate at the moment. A lot of Ukrainians aren't willing to use that term, but that's the military reality on the ground. Now, that doesn't mean that we should let Putin win. And if we fail to fund Ukraine, Putin will win. But it does mean that as we use taxpayer dollars to ensure that Ukraine doesn't lose, we want to see a change in strategy. We want to see them get out of this stalemate. That means they have to admit some mistakes. They must admit that the counteroffensive did not go as planned. And they should examine other approaches here, other strategic approaches to the Western defense to see if they have a better chance of breaking through.
Yeah, we've even heard of internal squabbling from the president of Ukraine and his top general saying publicly that he believes that they are at a stalemate. President Zelensky saying things are not that dire at this point. It was interesting to see the U.S. intelligence assessment today release information that the Ukrainian army had said Russia's military modernization by 18 years back. Russia suffering 315,000 dead, injured troops, nearly 80% of military personnel as well. Do you think the timing of this comes, obviously as Zelensky is here, do you think that this can sway some Republicans who are on the fence now about whether all of the money that has thus far been sent and invested in Ukraine was worthwhile?
Well, it should. It should, because we haven't lost a single American life, and yet Russia's military is significantly degraded. And that means that it's harder for Putin to attack the West, to go into NATO territory, as we know there's a risk that he does if he's able to successfully conquer Ukraine. So that is a good news story, and I do think the administration could do a better job of telling that story, because we all know that Vladimir Putin is a threat to the West, a threat to NATO, a threat to the United States of America, and we've significantly degraded that threat by helping Ukraine. By the way, even if we're in a stalemate, we continue to degrade the Russian military as they run up against this wall of Ukrainian and Western defenses. So, that's not all bad. It's not a terrible story that there's a stalemate. We just can't fund it indefinitely, and that's why we need some strategic changes to give the Ukrainians a better chance of breaking through.
Yeah, it was notable to hear from President Zelensky today say that the Ukrainian economy has grown 5% this year, this after now its second year in brutal war with Russia. That obviously sending a message to lawmakers here that their help has been effective and warranted and welcomed. We talk a lot about Republicans not wanting to continue funding Ukraine, at least without getting something in return. The president making clear last week that he is willing to negotiate on border security and take that issue seriously with more investments. How is that sitting with some members of your own party who may be worried, as has been reported, that he's conceding too much on this front?
Well, here's the concern. I think there are a lot of members of my Democratic Party that recognize we have to do more on the border, that we need to strengthen the border. But we don't want to scuttle what we fundamentally need when it comes to immigration policy in the United States, which is a full immigration deal, a deal that not only includes what Republicans want, which is increased border security, but also what Democrats want, which is a pathway to citizenship, some hope for all the kids, for example, who were brought here years ago by their parents and yet are sitting in legal limbo through no fault of their own. They go to American schools, they participate in the American economy, and yet they're not technically legal citizens. The vast majority of Americans, Republicans and Democrats, want a fix for that problem as well, but Republicans in Congress aren't willing to do it unless it's paired with border security. So the concern is that if the president bargains away what the Republicans want on border security just to get aid on Ukraine, then it imperils the chances of what we really need on immigration, which is full comprehensive reforms.
And a reminder for our viewers, this isn't just about aid to Ukraine. Obviously, this bill includes funding for Israel and Taiwan as well, all critical matters for U.S. national security. Congressman Seth Moulton, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.